Welcome to this podcast. It's April the 4th, 2024, and my name is David Marshall, and today we're talking about the death. If you're interested in kind of the purpose of death, why we have it, the experience of death, then this is for you. Because, of course, spirituality, self-awareness, which is what this is all about, the Conscious Creation Academy podcast is all about how we create our own reality, and death and other realities is all part of it. So today, this is a question I kind of pose, what is death? And really wanted Arron to speak on that. Arron has been in my physical life since I was 3 years old and always comes in with interesting aspects. At a very, very massive psychic awakening when I was 3. That's continued throughout my life. And Arron is my oldest friend and never lets me down. Has been around training me since I was 3 years old in my dreams with my out-of-body experiences. And so I've been channeling Arron for about 10 years. So today we're talking about death, what it is. And I do know what tends to happen is I'll kind of pose a question and then I will get a sense of what Arron would talk about. And it kind of comes from the right-hand side. I can feel Arron's energy building up now as I'm kind of talking. Comes kind of from a space on the right-hand side, about a foot outside of my physical head. And immediately I got the idea and the kind of words that, look, you can't understand death without understanding life. You can't understand life without understanding birth. You can't understand any of those without putting them in context of what creativity is and what the personality or what the broader soul is doing. And so that's kind of where we're headed. And it was not what I expected, but I've learned to go with the flow with this. So what I'm going to do now is just relax, take a little sip of tea as I sit here in my office, and the next voice that you will hear will be Arron's, and we'll see where this goes. I have no idea when we start this where it's going to go. I can feel very warm energy surrounding me with Arron, very safe, nurturing, easy energy that I obviously have recognized throughout my whole life. And we'll see where this goes. I'm sure it'll be interesting. And it'll be part of, I get the sense it's part of this idea around creativity, because the last channeling session we had talked about creativity. And I do know that creativity is one of the essential natures of consciousness. And so we'll see where this goes. The next voice you will hear will be Arron's. I have no idea how long it will be, how loud it will be, how quiet it will be. Sometimes it gets pretty full on. I try and just put myself to one side, and I can feel now that Arron is available. And so let's see where we go. All right. So the next voice you hear will be Arron's. Welcome to this next talk. My name is Arron. It's how I identify myself. Although I would say that this is not a name that was placed upon me. It's a name that I adopt to allow some kind of recognition, some kind of connection to my voice, to my energy, to my being, as it is impressed and focused from outside of the physical reality that you identify with through David into this microphone, into this environment in which you are all operating. Now, bear in mind, you do not operate solely within this environment. This is just one small part, essential and important and creative, but it's just one small part of your own creative process. And death is creative, life is creative, birth is creative. And that's because, as David pointed out, consciousness, awareness will always seek to create new experience. All that is, which is ourselves, of course, want to know ourselves. We cannot help but explore. We enjoy the pleasure of creativity, of understanding ourselves, of challenging ourselves, of pressurizing ourselves, if you like, into experiences. The key here is that your experience is so defined by your senses, it is so limited by your concepts, that you think that this is the only experience, and you define your creativity within the context of physical reality. But of course, it is just one very small, tiny part of your true nature. And so let's talk about death, a subject that a lot of people do not like talking about, and yet death is a rebirth. Death, as you understand it, of course, is simply a change of direction of where you put your attention. The challenge, of course, is that it is made so much more important to you because of the limitation of the senses and the impactful nature of the environment, the all-encompassing nature of physical reality that appears to be the start, the middle, and the end, and therefore there is so much importance placed upon it. In the broadest sense, there is much less importance placed on it. The day of your death is one moment and one thought within your broader consciousness experience. It bears no relation to the importance that you place upon it. But there is a reason for that. I would say that your experience of death, not as the experiencer, but as the population that thinks about death as the end, is much too focused upon. And I can understand why, but fundamentally it is a misunderstanding. So let's talk about creativity in terms of birth and life and death and the broader nature. So why did you come here? You came here to experience physical reality. You came here to place yourselves quite voluntarily within the context of the ups and the downs and the lefts and the right. You came here as part of a broader creative experiment which your broader consciousness is aware of and birthed you, if you like, with your permission into a reality that is so compact, it is like you are held in this coalesced energy space that appears so real that you cannot work your way out of it. And this is why death has such importance to you. And of course, the death experience is necessary. And so let's understand why. In order to have a life, you must have a birth and a death. In order to have a life, you must have a blueprint, so to speak. You must have ideas of why you came here within the certain time context in which you place yourself. Within each century, personalities, souls, or whereas energies, entities, whatever the language you wish to use, place themselves within the physical environment. And they call that a life. Because this is a grand experiment of consciousness, there are processes, there are systems, there are areas which you must involve yourself. The birth of children, the experience of being a father and a mother and a child, the experience of being human, the experience of being a victim, the experience of being the perpetrator. You experience all of these within the context of a particular time period. You cannot experience yourself as a woman in 400 AD in the same way as you experience yourself as a woman within 2024. It is a completely different experience. Both are valid. And they're valid in two different ways. They're valid to the broader self, the consciousness that all these lives make up this broader consciousness. And so this broader consciousness, the inner soul, for want of a better phrase, experiences all these lifetimes, all these experiences together. They make up, they are constituent parts of this broader self. They are like the cells of your body make up your whole body. The selves of yourself make up the inner self, the inner soul. And so all these experiences are valid and happy, and yet they must be separated within the physical environment. And therefore, you have the nature of time. You place yourself within an environment where events appear to happen sequentially, and you call this a life. And that could not happen if you did not have a birth, a day of birth. It could not happen if you did not have a day of death. It could not happen if you did not have the events in between that you identify with. When you identify with a birth and a death and the events in between and call it a life, it gives a certain purpose, gives a certain urgency. It encourages you to have experiences, to play out the blueprints of which you are so interested within your lives individually and en masse. Now, the truth is, of course, that outside of physical reality, in the broader soul, there is no time. A lifetime is a breath of the inner self and the inner soul. And so the term life and death and birth relates only to the physical environment. And yet, owing to the imposition of the intellect, the over-focus to say, if we cannot feel it or sense it except through the five senses, it is not real, it has superimposed an extra importance, a misguided importance of the idea of death and birth and in between. And so you came here to impress yourselves within physical reality, to have a certain experience as a man, as a woman, as a child in a certain environment, industrialized, non-industrialized. Certain parts of the world have different cultures. Think of these as different areas that you wanted to experience as a man in Asia, as a woman in Scotland, as a child in Norway, as a banker in Australia. All these are valid experiences, all have their different blueprints. And time and death and birth apply only when you are in the reality itself. When you are focusing your attention away from physical reality into, we will call, your dream world, the ideas of death and life have no recognition whatsoever. You are able quite actively to talk to those who have not been born yet, in your terms, those who have died. Because outside of physical reality, therefore, these terms have absolutely no meaning. They are simply another moment within the experience of the broader self. And so why do you have them? Because creatively you had to give yourself a boundary, if you will, a certain ability to experience yourself through the events of physical reality. And by doing that, you impress upon yourself certain very valid experiences, valid experience of relationship, valid experiences of being a parent, of feeling hunger, of being abundant, of being poor. All these are experiences that you want to have in order to educate yourself as part of the broader inner soul. So how should you think about death? How should you think about life? Death itself is an easy transition. You will find out yourself as you focus your attention away from physical reality, as you do when you daydream, as you do when you go to sleep. Think of death as you're turning your attention away from physical reality, and your awareness will grow, and you will realize, I am not dead. I am actually more alive, more energized, more motivated than I have felt ever before, without the restrictions of physical reality to confine me and to confine my energy and my belief systems. So do not be afraid of death. In terms of time, you have died many times, and yet here you are. In that sense, you could say that you are in an afterlife in terms of time. And so death in itself gives a personality the opportunity to call time, for want of a better phrase, to say, I have learned what I want to learn, and now I'm ready to learn something different. It is not something to be afraid of. It is not something to concern yourself individually. Obviously, within the context of the DNA, of your awareness of your bodies and your ecology, You place so much emphasis on the five senses within that context that you think, I am not going to see this person again. Therefore, for those left with that misunderstanding, of course, there is an emotional quality, but that quality is valid. But it should not be dwelled upon, because the individual who has woken up in another reality and died in this reality is available to you within your dream state, just as they are within your waking life. And the birth that you have, the expression of yourself, the impulse to be within physical reality, this is something where the personality, you, decide on a particular family, a particular environment, a culture, a time in which you choose to be born. This is valid. And the experience of becoming a child, having been a fetus, learning to walk and talk, to be loved and to love, to learn about relationships in the physical reality, to grow up in the sense through time, are completely valid. But with some education, which we are trying to provide here, you will realize that life and death are just breaths. But your beliefs that you have during the moments of your life dictate the experience. And therefore impress upon yourself the idea of safety and beauty, the idea of passion, compassion, creativity. And allow your mind to wander. Allow it to daydream. And to know that this is one experience of a limitless number that is available to you. And this will take the edge off, so to speak, your urgency. It will reassure you intuitively, emotionally, energetically of your safety. And so how should you think of death? Think of death as another door opening. Just as the birth is another door opening. And the experience that you have in between, held here within the confines of physical reality, can be so different. When you allow yourself to think, to feel, to be much more than you ever knew. And in order to gain an experience of that, head into your dreams. Tell yourself, I want to experience myself. And with the intention comes the inner action of the inner soul responding to you. Apply the law of attraction as you think of it to your inner self. Request insights and information, but bear in mind that you will filter these based on your belief system. You may say, tell me about reality, inner soul. And yet your conscious and unconscious beliefs may be that the world is unsafe and against you, that money is evil, that abundance is only available to those who are not spiritual. And you will filter these. The inner soul will tell you that joy and abundance is yours, translated into money. That you can be spiritual and financially abundant. That the religions are echoes of a broader truth, that the new age is a stepping stone to something broader, and the inner self can send you this information, and you will filter it based on your beliefs. So let's finish this with a short exercise for yourself. It will involve some effort, but it will release conflicting ideas, damaging core beliefs that you have. And remember that it is your beliefs and emotions and expectations that are the tools that you use to create the reality that you want. So make a list of everything that you are amazingly good at. Make a list of everything that you enjoy about your life. And then next to it, write a list of all the beliefs you have about those areas. And you will see you have positive beliefs. Include the ideas of death and birth and life. And then on the next sheet, write down areas of your life that you are unhappy with. And then a list of what you believe about those areas. And be honest with yourself. Include ideas of belief, of death and life and birth. This exercise alone will allow you to see where you have conflicting ideas. And these conflicting ideas inhibit the work of the psychic senses. These are necessary for you to have these insights into the nature of yourself. And just as you choose your moment of birth, dear friends, you choose your moment of death for your own purposes. And you can become aware of that when you believe that you can. So we will leave it there. Creativity plays through the inner conscious soul into physical reality. Your birth and your death and your life are your creativity, born and experienced. But you are quite safe within all of them. You are quite immortal. Ponder on these ideas. And if you are brave enough, when you sleep one evening, suggest that you wish to experience a death. And you will find that it is not quite as fearful as you may think. Okay, so I hope that was interesting. 20 minutes, I think, for that. Felt about 2 minutes to me. Very interesting experience. My experience of it is I will see the images and the feelings as Arron is talking, and sometimes it's very deep. Sometimes I feel as though my awareness is coming and going. Very, very interesting. What I can't remember most of that. I do remember the impression when he was talking about, this thinking of this as the afterlife, an afterlife, and that we're still alive, in terms of time and all that kind of, I just kind of felt that ripple through me. So that was quite an interesting thing to experience. So I hope that's useful for you, maybe giving you a different idea. And I do remember at the end him suggesting heading into your dreams and actually inviting an experience of one of your deaths that you have, given the nature of time, simultaneous nature of time, that is available to you. And I have done that, and it wasn't anywhere near as scary as I thought it was, but I did make sure that I was quite relaxed before I did it. And and it was an interesting experience to have. And certainly I have no fear of death, because it feels just like this transition. And again, experience is everything. So do whatever Arron said in there. Go and play, go and experience, and we'll see where we go from there. So that's it. So wherever you are, please do subscribe. Look out for more coming soon. And you can go and download my book called The Dream We Call Earth at thedreamwecallearth.com, thedreamwecallearth.com. And there are a whole bunch of audios will accompany the book to teach you about the nature of reality in a very, very different way based on the understandings that I have, and also Arron's teachings and other things that have inspired me along the way. That's it. Have a great day. All the best. Take care.